Render is one of the hottest AI altcoins on the market, and with good reason, as this altcoin is up 269% over the past year. Additionally, if we actually measure its performance from the bear market lows, this coin is up, about 1,200%, and that is even after a 60+% decline from the high it made back in March of this year. Now, in today's episode of the Everything Crypto Show, I want to talk about the crypto and altcoin market specifically and give you guys an update on that, as well as discuss why I believe Render is seeing a nice move to the upside today and upcoming catalysts that could push this altcoin to new highs. Now, before we hop into the content, just a friendly reminder that I am not a financial advisor, nor do I offer any sort of financial advice on YouTube. I am simply here for your crypto news and entertainment purposes. And if you do find the videos informative, entertaining, maybe even both, please consider hitting that sub and like button and turn that notification bell on so you can be notified when all of our latest videos go live on the channel. So we can see here that as of the time of this recording, the altcoin market and just the crypto market overall is having a pretty good day. I mean, we have Bitcoin at the moment up about 0.5%. Ether is actually down about 1%. It appears like the altcoins here are really leading this rally. Some of the big gainers include IMX up 10%, Floki up 9.2%, Render up 7.7%. And we are going to discuss Render specifically in a couple of minutes after the crypto market overview, but I do definitely think it is worthwhile to talk about Bitcoin dominance, and the general altcoin market structure, okay? So for starters, I mean, we can see here that Bitcoin is actually just holding above 60K at the moment, sitting at about $6,400. It is still down about 17% from its all-time high that it made in March of this year, at about 73.5K, let's call it. So, to see 20-ish% declines, even more than that in bull markets is very normal. In fact, Bitcoin actually did pull back about 30% here when it did dip to about, under 50K back in August. Since then, it has seen a nice bounce, and this pullback now is within 20% of highs, under 20%, under a 20% drawdown from its recent high. So, pretty typical for bull markets, to be honest. You have to expect this volatility both ways. And if you take a look at Bitcoin and zoom out, it does look really good, in my opinion. And Bitcoin dominance here is another chart that we have been keeping an eye on recently. This basically, what this chart is showing is that Bitcoin has been one of the biggest leaders in this market. And overall, it has been outperforming the altcoin market as it has been taking more and more of the total crypto market cap. Now, I've been saying this on the channel for a while. I don't think this bull run is like the last one, where you can just pretty much put money in any altcoin and make money and expect it to outperform Bitcoin. I think that this market, you do need to be, everybody needs to be a lot more selective with their altcoins. And that's why I have really been covering kind of just the select altcoins that I believe are going to outperform Bitcoin, or rather that have been outperforming Bitcoin and that will continue to outperform, Bitcoin. And Render is one of them. And we can clearly see here by this chart that, Bitcoin dominance has been climbing steady, basically from 40% up to 57% since the beginning of the bull market. Now, personally, I am expecting Bitcoin dominance to, potentially top out at about 60%, meaning that, yes, Bitcoin could continue to outperform alts maybe for the next little while. But I think that in Q4 of this year and moving into 2025, that we will start to see altcoins actually outperform. And that is also, pretty characteristic of bull markets, where Bitcoin kind of takes the lead at first, and then all the money made in Bitcoin flows into the altcoin market. And another chart that I do want to look at is the Ether Bitcoin valuation, which I am potentially looking at a bounce here at the 0.04 level of support. You can see here that it was support, back in 2017, resistance in 2018, 2019, boom, broke above it in 2021. And since the merge occurred in September of 2022, Ether has pretty much been down only versus Bitcoin. It's down about 50% at the moment, and just eyeing this bounce at 0.04 as a potential area for Ether to reverse against Bitcoin. which would indicate a broader market trend that alts could be stepping ahead of Bitcoin and beginning to outperform. And if we just take a look at the altcoin market here, I mean, this is the Bitcoin dominance chart, or rather the Bitcoin chart, okay? And then this is the altcoin chart. And you're going to notice, right, like the altcoin chart does not look as pretty as the Bitcoin one. Altcoins have not made a new cycle high this time around, whereas Bitcoin has. In fact, they're still down about 48% from its 2021 high, the altcoin market as a whole, and still down about 26% from its recent high that it put in back in March of this year. So, all this to say that you do have to be selective with your altcoins this cycle. I think everybody should be. Bitcoin definitely has been leading the pack, generally speaking, so far. However, I am expecting this trend to pretty much reverse in Q4 early next year, and that is when I'm looking for altcoins to lead the way. Now, I do want to hop into the render-specific news. Okay, this altcoin is up about 8% on the day, and we were talking about render on the most recent pullback. If you go back to our earlier videos, we had this line of support on the chart at about the $3.50 range, more or less, $3.60. And render actually did see a pretty clean bounce off of that level, okay? And since bouncing off of that $3.58 range, the coin is up about 40% from there. However, this is an altcoin that did put in a new high this cycle, and it's still down like 63% from that $13.50 high. So I want to talk about this altcoin, and more specifically what is going on with it right now, and two upcoming catalysts that I am keeping an eye on that could potentially act as a bullish tailwind for the price. So for starters, we were talking recently about how Render actually upgraded from the Ethereum blockchain to the Solana blockchain. So it was formerly Render RNDR, now it is Render RENDER. This is the new ticker for this coin. And basically, it was voted on, I believe it was back in actually late 2023, maybe. Yeah, so okay, early 2023 actually, it was voted on for them to move over to the Solana blockchain. And basically, what this enabled was the burn mint equilibrium. So this upgrade allows rendering and AI jobs to be paid on-chain in Render, the network's recently upgraded token, which now is emitted and transacted on Solana. And basically, key aspects of the BME model that I want to talk about include, first of all, the emissions and incentives for network participants, and then the token burning and emissions. So upon completion of work, creators pay for jobs by converting fiat to Render using distributed liquidity pools. The render is subsequently burned in exchange for completion of the work. A transparent log of these transactions is maintained by the protocol, which forms the basis for rewards for contributors at each epoch's end. So effectively, upon completion of work, people pay using render. That render is subsequently burned, and then the people who are providing that GPU power to the render network for these tasks to be completed are being paid in line with the mission schedule. And we recently saw major exchange support for, the migration of render to render. And, in line with that big migration that we saw a couple of weeks back, we also saw a huge spike in the amount of render tokens actually being burned. Total from 76K in late July up to 95,000, now sitting at 97,000 in mid-August. You can see here on the chart that massive jump. And we are about to hit that massive milestone of 100,000 render actually burned. So the fact that render did migrate to Solana, and also, kind of paired with the fact that the burn mint equilibrium is operational on Solana, means that we could potentially see more, just more of an uptick in burns as, they are kind of pushing for this migration, and it did occur on most major exchanges. So that's something I am keeping an eye on when it comes to this altcoin currently. And looking forward, two things that I am looking for when it comes to render is both the NVIDIA earnings call scheduled for August 28th. So that is, less than a week away at this point. And there have been instances in the past where NVIDIA has reported good earnings, and it has also sent render to the upside as it just shows an increased demand for AI tasks. And, that's why I believe render kind of moves in tandem with NVIDIA earnings as well, because render does provide that decentralized GPU infrastructure. And I think it's a big thing when it comes to AI that, there's a ton of demand. Demand is not the issue, the supply is the bottleneck, and the supply referring to the amount of GPU power that is available for these different tasks. That is what the Render Network is looking to solve with their decentralized GPU fleet. So, I will definitely be curious to see how the NVIDIA earnings go and how that does impact the price of Render. And the second thing that I am looking for, and this is next month, so there are two big events that the Render team will be speaking at. First one is Solana Breakpoint 2024. And that is on the 20th and 21st of September. But before that, there is Token 2049 happening on the 18th and 19th. And we did see from Jules Urbach here, I found this on Twitter. This is in the official Render chat. He basically says, I've been heads down this past month helping guide a technically complex and very ambitious internal project, which if all goes well, will serve as a major industry proof point for all of the next-gen workflows that will be a part of Render's roadmap in 2025 and beyond. And he basically says if the project wraps up before mid-September, he will be featuring it in the Solana Breakpoint talk. So they are cooking something behind the scenes. We don't know what it is, but if they are able to get it done by mid-September, then it is something that we'll be highlighting in the Breakpoint talk. And depending on what it is, that could act as a big catalyst for the price action. So definitely keeping an eye on that as well. Now, speaking of the price action, I do want to wrap things up taking a look at the Render chart here, as we are at about the $5 zone, below a key area of resistance at $5.23. Now, this 523 zone is really important in my opinion, as this was actually a level of resistance back in December of 2023. It got rejected there. We saw Render actually pull back about 30%, and then boom, once it broke above that $5.23 range, this thing rallied like 160% within a month from 523 up to about $13.50. And this happened from early February to early March. So another potential breakout above 523 could possibly lead to another big move to the upside. 523 also acting as resistance here in the bear market before we did see that mass capitulation. So this is a tough level for Render, just historically speaking. It's an important level for Render. And if we do see a breakout above that zone, that is when things could definitely get interesting for this altcoin. Looking up, we have the bull market support band range bound between, $6.50 and $7.50. And we have the prior cycle all-time high at $8.80, which I believe would also be key area of resistance for Render to get back above. Generally speaking, prior cycle highs do act as key areas of support and resistance. So, and then for the downside, I'd really be potentially looking for a retest of that $3.58 zone if we do see the market kind of turn down again. So downside target would be let's just call it 360. Upside targets would need to break above 523 and look for a potential retest of the prior cycle all-time high at 880. Of course, I don't know what is going to happen. Okay, I don't have, a crystal ball, and I'm just kind of, I like to take a look at the charts and just evaluate and assess what would be some key areas of support and resistance, just like we saw that $3.60 level actually play out here, okay? So it's not about, knowing or predicting exactly which way it's going to go. That's not what I'm here to do. What I'm here to do is basically prepare for either scenario. So on that note, I hope you did enjoy the content in today's video. I hope you are all staying happy, safe, and healthy, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Peace out for now.